Hello, listeners, and welcome to a brand new and very exciting episode of Never Seen It. My name is Betsy, and I'm here as always with Trent.
It's number 300, everybody.
Not 300 episodes, folks. We are doing our 300th movie.
Holy shit, Betsy. We finally made it.
A milestone for us as podcasters. And as is our tradition, we did it at 100, we did it at 200. We are back for our 300th movie for what we have defined as a big movie. But we're not stopping there. We're making the entire month Big Movie May. What that means is, as people who like movies, these are really, truly movies we should have seen by now.
Yeah.
That's kind of the concept of the entire podcast. But this month in particular is going to be 4 movies where it's like, really, guys?
Yeah, we really need to cross these off our list like now before, it gets more embarrassing.
Yes. So we are starting with a movie that I have seen that my darling, dear husband Trent has not.
Nope.
Our first big movie is Braveheart. This is a movie that was released May of 1995. So this month marks 29 years that this movie has existed on this planet. And to emphasize to you how big this movie is that my husband has not seen, I have some stats for you.
It is Big Movie May, so we have to do the big movie facts.
I want to quantify how big these movies are.
Yeah.
So Braveheart was nominated for 10 Oscars. And of those 10 nominations, it won 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture of that year.
And Best Director.
This movie grossed $213 million worldwide.
In 1995
In 95. I don't believe this has been adjusted for inflation.
Yeah.
This was the number 21 movie at the box office for 1995. And that meant something very different in the 90s than it does now.
Yeah, because a 3-hour epic going to the theater.
It was not in the days of Oppenheimer.
Yeah, this is no
where
Oppenheimer.
People would do this. And this is currently the number 80 movie in the IMDb top 250. So
wow.
this is a movie that for 29 years, a lot of people have known and loved in their own way.
Yeah, and a lot of people would probably put this at their number 1. Depending on your age and when you saw it and, what your movie repertoire is, there's a lot of people out there that would say this is their absolute favorite movie.
Now, Trent, you were but 10 years old when this movie came out, so I can give you a pass for not having seen this in 1995, but a lot of time has passed that you could have at any moment watched this movie. And you haven't until we're going to do it today. So tell the listeners what you definitely know or you think that you know about Braveheart.
So for Braveheart, I haven't seen the movie, probably because, like you said, I was 10 years old at the time when it came out. And this is a movie that I don't think this movie can be edited very well for television, at least for like cable. So it's not really one that I had any easy access to see the entire thing.
The uncut, uncensored version.
It wasn't like Saving Private Ryan, which we've also covered on this show, where on ABC on the anniversary of D-Day, they're going to show it in its entirety on broadcast television.
Unedited,
they're not going to do that with Braveheart.
No, and your parents are not people that are going to pick up this movie.
Definitely not. They barely even got Titanic at home. They bought the 2 VHS tape version well after the movie was out of theaters.
Oh, yeah. Braveheart was another one of those, obviously.
Obviously, it's 3 hours.
3 hours. Kids, I don't know if you know this, but movies used to come on a very hard plastic container with film inside, and it had a time capacity. You had to split movies like this up into 2. So I'm going to tell you, Trent, when we're watching this movie, I'm going to tell you exactly where the split was.
Where's the cut?
Because I've seen this enough times to know where you had to switch the tape.
I mean, I could probably tell you the same thing about Titanic, too.
Oh, that one I definitely
You definitely knew that one.
But going back to this.
Yes.
Elaborate. What do you know?
Okay, so elephant in the room being the name Mel Gibson. I said in the last episode that this movie was going to star one of the biggest movie stars in the 90s. That's without question. Mel Gibson was a giant fucking name in the 90s.
This was the peakiest peak of his career, was around this time.
Approaching that. Around this time, I mean, he directed this movie. He started the movie.
He won Best Director
for this. It is a gigantic undertaking, and he fucking nailed it, I'm sure. I haven't seen the movie yet, obviously. But that is all to say, fuck that guy.
In latter years, we've learned some things about Mel Gibson.
Absolutely. And we're not going to cover this movie without addressing
We're going to acknowledge it.
That giant elephant in this fucking room.
But we're going to not dwell on it the entire episode.
Absolutely not. So we just wanted to get that out of the way. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. Anyway, so as far as what I know about Braveheart, this is a very loosely based on real history of the Scottish and English War back in the whatever year it was.
Yeah, that year.
That one year.
Or those several years. That pocket of time.
I have no idea when this is actually taking place because I am not that big of a student of history, at least of European history, to really understand.
Or at least not this particular era of it.
No. But Mel Gibson is playing William Wallace, I don't really know what his title is at the time of whenever this time is.
He's the Braveheart.
He's Mr. Braveheart.
Mr. Braveheart.
Commander Braveheart, maybe. I honestly do not know. But he is commanding this army in this war. I know that there are a lot of scholars out there who point at this movie and just shake their fingers at it. It's like, no, that's not what happened. But, at the end of the day, it is a movie. It is meant to entertain people, not educate people, like we've learned with movies like Oppenheimer. That movie educated people as well as entertained them. You're getting your cake and you're getting your vegetables at the same time, I guess.
But this one's just the cake.
This one's just cake. Anyway, so I don't know much else about that. This is about the war between Scotland and England.
Do you know anybody besides Mel Gibson who is in this movie?
Every Scottish actor under the sun except Mel Gibson.
I will tell you right now, there are people in this that I constantly forget are in this.
I'm sure there's plenty of people that I'm going to recognize.
Because it's the thing where this would have been the first thing I saw a bunch of actors in.
I'm sure.
But I was too young to realize that they were in this.
I'm sure a guy like Brendan Gleeson is in this.
Okay.
In some capacity. Any other big names, I really couldn't tell you.
Well, and Brendan Gleeson is Irish.
He is Irish. Well, okay. I will revise my previous statement. Every Irish and Scottish actor in existence other than Mel Gibson. Because he's an Aussie. Come on. What are you doing? Okay. I'll get into that later. Yeah, Betsy, that's about all I know about this here movie. I know there's plenty of iconic lines from this movie. Him, in doing the doing the thing in front of his men before they go out to battle. And I'm sure there are some lines from William Wallace that are famous in history. I just cannot think of them off the top of my head right now.
Or at least famous from this movie, certainly.
From the movie, right. I regret to say that I have but one life to give for my country. Is that from him?
No.
Okay.
That's from the American Revolution, I think.
Okay. I honestly do not know. So
no. Welcome to a segment called Trent Showing His Ignorance. That is what this intro is.
Yeah. And I should know better because I actually like studying the American Revolution. But
you do.
Anyway, I know you have a kind of a longer history with this movie, but I think we'll probably wait until after we see the movie to really have the context for what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, this intro is going to be really long if I talk about my history, my very long history with the movie Braveheart. So instead, we are going to go and watch the movie. At long last, I'm going to make Trent sit through this 3+ hour epic. And when we come back, we will talk about Braveheart. We will be right back. And we are back. It only took 29 years and one Best Picture win later, but Trent has finally seen 1995's Braveheart. Trent, what did you think of this movie?
Okay, so I feel like I can't really give Braveheart a fair shake because throughout us watching this movie, I just kept on thinking about other movies that have come out after this that have been inspired because of it.
So this is kind of like when we watched Point Break and all we could see was the Fast and the Furious.
Fast and Furious. What are you doing? Even though it came out prior to that.
It's not their fault that the Fast and the Furious ripped them off, but because that's what we got to first. So in this one, I know exactly which movie specifically that you're talking about, but I know there are probably other properties
absolutely
that have influenced your opinion. So let's just break it down to a very simple: did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy the experience? Or was it so distracting that you almost couldn't even get into this movie?
It was pretty close. Like, I was very much distracted by a lot of this stuff because, this is what I do. I can't not think about other movies to compare this to because I've seen them so many times over the years. But to answer your question, yes, I did enjoy this movie. I get it. In 1995, if I was, an adult and I knew what good movie making was, yeah, I probably would have been really, really impressed by this movie. But because so many other movies that have come out since this have just taken this template and expanded upon it and made it better, I have to put myself in the 1995 mindset to really realize, oh, shit, yeah, this is kind of amazing. But I can't have that exact feeling because so many other movies have done it better.
So here is where I'm going to talk about my history with the movie Braveheart.
Yeah, we kind of skipped over it in the intro because number one, we were going long, and number two, I needed to have the context of actually watching the movie to know what you're about to say.
Well, yes and no. So my history with Braveheart, this movie was my very first rated R movie.
Yeah.
And Trent knows this already, but the listeners out there probably have never heard this story. I was having a sleepover at my best friend's house, and I would say it had to be early 1996 because I know this was when I was way too young to watch Braveheart.
Yeah.
Okay. And we watched it at her house, so it had to be out. And the release cycle for movies on tape in those days was way different than it is for home viewing now.
It took forever for the VHS and the DVD to come out.
So long.
Yeah.
I probably didn't see this movie until 1996 after it had already won Best Picture.
Yeah.
I have no context for what time of the year it was. All I know is where I was and who it was that showed me this movie. And this is an insane movie to be your first rated R movie. I am like this sheltered little kid who never really got into trouble.
Yeah, you're like 11, 12 years old.
I'm probably barely 11. Let's call it barely 11.
All right.
And I'm seeing throat slitting and violent war and boobs and fucking. And I'm just like, this was an absolutely formative experience for me because I had never seen anything like this in my life, in my little young Betsy brain.
Your little Betsy brain was blown away.
It was an insane movie. But of course, I couldn't tell people I had seen it. So I kind of told my siblings. And somewhere along the way, it started being a movie that I showed my little brothers.
Oh.
Like they had it at the library. And I don't know. I genuinely to this day don't know how I got my hands on this, if the librarians just didn't care or if my mom was always there when we were checking it out, so nobody cared. But there was this threshold where everybody in my house eventually had seen Braveheart, I think.
Like kind of secretly, like it wasn't in the main. Yeah, okay, I see.
I don't remember because, it was almost 30 years ago.
Of course.
But for that reason, I have seen this movie many, many times. I don't know how many, but this was the first watch that I've done in a really long time, probably since before you and I had started dating.
Yeah, I don't remember you ever watching this movie, or at least even referring to it, or like I knew the story about you surreptitiously watching the movie for the first time. I knew this was your first rated R movie. But the way you made it sound the first time you told me the story was it was a lot more like titillating and like debaucherous than what it actually ended up being.
Mostly because I knew I wasn't supposed to be watching this movie.
Right. In your little 11-year-old Catholic girl
I've never seen
brain.
boobs before.
Right.
Like, genuinely, like, this movie is a lot for anybody. But the thing that I was noticing in this viewing, now having not watched it in a while,
Yeah.
I think this is maybe because simply we both just went through the experience of Game of Thrones.
Right.
Like, anything in this movie is frankly fucking tame compared to watching what they put on HBO in Game of Thrones.
Right. What I was just about to say when you're talking about, okay, back in 1995, this was a huge deal. Like, you got naked women, or a naked woman anyway. You got blood and guts, not even guts. Honestly, looking back on this now, this is tame
It really is.
compared to what you're getting in mainstream television and movies.
Yeah, but it feels, in 1995 context, this was a lot. Like, they almost got an NC-17 rating on this movie because of all the violence. They had to edit those frames and take out this scene and pull back a little bit.
And
it's
mainly
still,
because it is 1995.
Yeah, but it's still hyper violent in this movie when they get into the
Yeah.
battle sequences.
Yeah, and I could tell that I feel like they were pulling back in some of these edits, because when you're in the battle scenes here, they are cutting so quickly. You're barely getting any views of what's actually happening.
You have to, though, because that's what it is in a battle. Like, it's thousands of edits,
It's frantic.
very quick.
Yeah.
Like, the battle sequences don't actually last that long.
No,
like
I was kind of wondering, okay, is this it? Is this the big battle that everybody's been talking about for 30 years?
If we had been like timing it, it's not that many minutes of the movie for each sequence. But it took, fucking weeks of shooting day in and day out.
Yeah.
They had, I think they said 90 hours of footage for that first giant battle sequence.
And think about all of the different movies from back in the 50s and 60s, the big 3-4 hour epics.
With 10,000 extras and things like that.
Yeah, these movies had not been made since then.
Not to this scale, no.
Yeah.
I was reading that one of these sequences had up to 1,600 extras.
Yeah.
This was in the age where they didn't do it digitally. Even in the 90s, they still had 1,600 people in costume, in makeup.
On horses. Real horses.
So it is impressive. And so I think when you really look at it compared to what was going on in film in 1995, it's the fact that it was just a fucking impressive movie. It was. That's a fact.
Yeah.
Is it a complicated story? Not super complicated. There's not like a whole lot you need to understand. Like, at the beginning, they sort of set up, okay, so there was a king in Scotland and he died and he didn't have an heir. And then the king of England swooped in and now he's trying to enforce his rule, but the Scots don't like it. And so it's a lot of like political maneuvering and warring between the clans and trying to decide what to do.
And when you try to take, okay, you can apply the Game of Thrones logic and politics to this real life conflict. Scotland is the North. They are the independent people, and they're not going to have some foreign king coming in here and throwing his weight around. So I can't help but make those comparisons in other fiction. And for the most part, this is very fictional. Like, yes, there was a William Wallace. Yes, he did lead a lot of battles and whatever else. But
oh no, this movie is total bullshit.
Yeah. And apparently in later years, Mel Gibson has come out and said, when people have challenged him about the historical inaccuracies and whatnot, his defense, and it's a fine defense, but he says, I'm not out here to try to educate people. This is entertainment. This is cinema. And you can't have a cinematic story about what actually happened, at least his interpretation of it anyway.
Yeah, you said it in the introduction, where Oppenheimer was trying to get the science and the facts right. That's an epic where it's like, okay, we're going to try to be as accurate as possible.
And he makes it interesting.
No, this one is, hello, there was a human being named William Wallace. There was somebody called Robert the Bruce. All the names are correct, but they fuck with the timeline. They fuck with what people did and when. Like,
he didn't scream freedom at his execution.
No. And like, the Scottish people think Robert the Bruce, they consider that guy like the real fucking hero of their
Sure,
country.
sure.
And they don't like how he's portrayed in this movie.
Yeah.
So everything is very loosey-goosey. The princess from France didn't even show up until like 10 years later. Like he was already dead or something when that happened.
Right.
So there's no love story between them. It's all fiction. But that's okay. No one should really give a shit when you're looking at movies like this, because that's not the idea. In the 90s, we're just trying to make this big, epic movie. And it is really entertaining. Like, I was watching this. This movie is like just 3 hours, like
Just under 3 hours.
maybe like a couple
with
minutes
the
under.
credits. Yeah.
This movie flew by today. I felt like this didn't feel 3 hours. This was cooking along. Every time you hit pause, I was like, oh shit, we're an hour into this thing.
Right.
Oh shit, we're an hour 40 into this thing. You know, we took a couple breaks because we are at home and we can.
Right.
I felt like it just kept moving. I don't feel like this movie drags, even though I've seen this so many times.
Yeah, I was definitely interested the entire way. There was at no time was I bored. I was very much interested in the story and the progression of everything. But I do think that I was starting to feel the time after the first big battle. Because honestly, the way it was all building up in my brain is, okay, this is the big battle. This is where the culmination is. And soon after that, when they start talking about politics back at this meeting, I paused it at one point to make some notes about the battle. And, oh shit, there's still an hour and 10 minutes left in this movie? What the fuck? So then I realized, okay, you're going to get more of the story about Wallace. You're going to get more of the story about how he ends up by the end of his life. So I appreciated that you got the full circle of his character. You got him coming up as a child and seeing the slaughter of the king and being inspired by the murder of, you know, his father and brother.
And he's educated. This kind of launches him. He goes and he learns multiple languages and he sees the world, and he's much more, he's smarter and more worldly than most of the people around him.
Sure. He is basically amongst a bunch of Scottish farmers. Then his uncle comes to pluck him out of this, to show him the world, and then he comes back to be a farmer and take a wife. That's essentially what his life was going to be.
And he wanted peace and he didn't want to fight, but they kind of fucked it all up for him.
Yeah, and that's where the comparisons have to start, because I can't not think about the movie that the internet, apparently I had no idea about this. The internet has been having a debate about Braveheart versus The Patriot for 20 years, 24 years at this point, because The Patriot came out in 2000.
The Patriot is, in effect, a spiritual sequel to Braveheart.
It kind of
in
is.
so many ways. And I thought that in the year 2000, the first time I saw The Patriot.
Of course you would.
And I hadn't really thought about it in a while, but now we were watching this and you were screaming it at certain points of the movie. You're like, this is The Patriot. This is The Patriot. And it's like, yeah, no. It is.
And it's not just because, hey, it's Mel Gibson, hey, it's war, hey, it's this, hey, it's that. No, there are actual like sequences in this movie that are repeated in The Patriot.
There are things in the way they make the movie.
Yep.
In the storytelling. It's things like, okay, Mel Gibson is a reluctant warrior who just wants peace.
He just
wants to be a farmer.
Be with his family.
He wants to start a family in this one, or be with his family in that one.
It's all about family. It's a Fast and Furious movie.
He is kind of this legend that is going out fucking things up for the English.
Yeah.
And there's people like, there's sequences where people are like, William Wallace is 7 feet tall and he killed 100 men. You know? Like that shit. In The Patriot, he's a ghost.
He's the ghost.
They refer to him as the ghost.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a singular bad guy that's like following him through the story.
Right.
But there's a lot of these like slow motion action sequences. People very close to him die very unexpectedly.
And the weird stuff about he had a wife or a love interest at one point. That person died. Then he meets someone else that he falls in love with.
There are absolute parallels in those two movies.
There's a building set on fire with people inside, and there's a church set on fire with people inside.
Yeah. You know, the things that happen in both movies.
Yeah, and what you said about there are like literal shots of Mel Gibson and the way things are filmed. I wrote down that there are so many slow motion tracking shots where it's just adding to the tension, adding to the drama, to what's happening on screen.
How many minutes were added just because it was in slow motion?
Seriously, you could have cut a half hour out of this movie if you just got rid of that. And I don't think you really needed to have it.
You have to build tension somehow. And that was the trick he decided. And listen,
I suppose.
with The Patriot, I said this when we were watching it, Roland Emmerich, I think, who directed The Patriot.
He did.
Not Mel Gibson. But Mel Gibson, by that point in his career, had a lot more say and pull on how his projects are created and perceived. So I would imagine there was maybe some inspiration drawn. It just it feels too similar for it to have been a mistake.
Okay, I will give, I'm not going to blame Mel Gibson here for The Patriot looking and sounding and feeling like Braveheart.
No, because it's also a good movie.
It's also a really good movie. But I feel like they were just trying to evoke Braveheart in The Patriot so much that they had to throw in all of the homages. And it's not even an homage, it's just copying it.
They're like trying to cash in on some of that remnant success from 5 years ago.
5 years ago, yeah. So I get it. I understand why there is a discussion between these two movies. Braveheart did it first. Maybe Braveheart did it better. Maybe Patriot did it better. It doesn't matter. It's just something for people on the internet to argue about.
This is true. Well, something else I looked up, I don't think it was on purpose, but I do find it interesting that the first book in the Game of Thrones series came out in 1996.
Oh, yeah. I fully expect that there is all sorts of different inspiration for George R.R. Martin and probably Peter Jackson, because the Lord of the Rings trilogy was born in the 90s. It was started the production of Lord of the Rings, the trilogy, got started in the 90s. And I'm sure some of these shots and some of these big battle scenes were all inspired by Braveheart.
Do you think it is too big a leap to say that the success of this movie is somewhat responsible for Lord of the Rings being greenlit?
Absolutely.
Because this came out in 95, was a massive hit, won Best Picture in 96. They started filming Lord of the Rings in what, 99?
99.
Because it took years. They were doing them back to back. There was a long post-production.
And there's a lot of pre-production
and
as well.
And a lot of pre-production.
Because you had to plan out that thing so much. Especially
so meticulously.
In New Zealand. You didn't have the entire studio system behind you in New Zealand. They had to bring all of that to there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, New Line had confidence in, okay, we need a big hit. We need to have this big epic. And what thing do we have access to that we could throw a lot of money at? That's what they did.
And they were proving in the 90s, the audience was ready for these big epics because we had Braveheart, bam. Then we had Titanic, bam. Then we had, the Lord of the, all these other things. Lord of the Rings, the Patriot.
Yeah, the Patriot was very successful.
Yeah, there were these just like hit after hit after hit of these really big scale, big concept movies. And to bring it back to like Game of Thrones, I'm sure George R.R. Martin, that's more of a coincidence that the book came out in 96 and it's the time and the place he's writing about.
Right.
But I think there's maybe more inspiration to be seen in the television show because, as I said earlier, watching Game of Thrones is a fucking visceral, upsetting experience at times. And those battle sequences, they had them over and over and over again. It's Braveheart times 50.
Yeah.
And so watching this, it feels quaint.
I mean, they're basically making a half a Braveheart, a mini Braveheart every single episode.
Every year.
In some cases.
Or at least
one season. Anyway.
Yeah, every season they would have something to the scale of this movie.
Yeah.
That's fucking insane. But
and it's all kind of born out of Braveheart. And that's insane to me. Like, this movie was that big. And I don't remember. A lot of times I remember stuff from the 90s about, the big fervor around these movies that had big names behind them. I don't really remember much about this.
And listen, this is all my personal conjecture. I don't know if this is true or not. It just feels right. It feels accurate.
All the comparisons to what we just said, I have to believe that is all true, or at least partially inspired by.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't really remember a whole lot about what was happening and why this movie was so big. I saw The Patriot first, obviously, and I really liked The Patriot mainly because I think I mentioned in the intro that I'm a kind of a student of the Revolutionary War. I'm very interested in that time period of American history. Now, that is another movie that has no historical accuracy whatsoever.
No, that's a made-up story.
That is a completely made-up story.
So is this mostly.
So is this. That's more inspired by, well, now that I think about it, maybe both of them have about 20% truth and then the rest of it is just embellished. But anyway, I really liked The Patriot when I saw it. And I saw it pretty soon after that came out. I didn't see it in the theater because, I wasn't 18 yet, of course.
Oh, no, I saw it in the theater.
Yeah. You might as well just tell that story.
Yeah, my mom was out of town and my dad wanted to see The Patriot and it was showing at our little small town theater and he couldn't leave us at home. So he brought all the kids to The Patriot.
Which is a much bloodier movie than this ever was.
I was 15. Shouldn't have been there. Now, that would be one thing, but he brought my younger siblings to it.
Yeah, so I watched The Patriot. We're just going to talk about The Patriot in this Braveheart episode. Well, I saw The Patriot because my half brother was in town and he wanted to rent a movie and we went to the store. We went to the rental store, came in, he was insulted by the guy at the counter and there was almost a fight and we brought The Patriot. Oh yeah. I don't really remember a whole lot of details there.
This is news to me.
It was really strange. But we brought The Patriot home. We watched it on my parents' 32-inch TV. It was good. I enjoyed it, but I think I was just a little bit aghast about what I just witnessed at the video rental store, but that's a different story.
Well, let's bring it back to Braveheart. So let's talk a little bit about some of the elements of the movie, other than the giant visceral battle scenes.
Yes.
So we touched on it. The star of this is Mel Gibson. How do you feel about his Scottish accent?
I'm no expert in accents, clearly because I'm married to you and I just shake my head every time you make one. I think it was inoffensive, but I'm not Scottish. Or I'm only a very small bit Scottish. I'll say that. But I mean, there's really nothing to complain about when he's amongst a bunch of other Irish and Scottish people. All the accents kind of mix together, so I can't really tell the difference.
Well, and they have Irish people playing Scotsmen. And the one Irishman is actually Scottish. So the Scotsman is playing Irish and the Irish are playing Scots. And everybody is, I think, doing a fairly good job. You're right. When you put him in context, it's a little easier. I think he's holding his own. I wouldn't say it's great, but I don't know if you've ever actually heard Scottish people. There are parts of that country that those people are incomprehensible.
Except to each other.
Or sometimes not even to each other.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the most famous Scotsman I can even say is Groundskeeper Willie. That is my exposure to the Scottish accent, and that's just Dan Castellaneta. He's not Scottish at all.
Not really.
No. But as far as, Mel Gibson as an actor in this movie, I think he's doing a really good job. Like he's doing the inspirational thing at the beginning of that first battle. He is inspiring his men. He's being a little bit cheeky here and there, but not as much as he is in The Patriot and later movies that he's in.
There is a certain very specific Mel Gibson charm that you were kind of treated to for the decade leading up to this movie and the decade after this movie.
It's kind of lacking in this one, though.
Yeah, he's holding that back a lot because he's kind of dealing with some things. And I think it's also because he's directing this movie simultaneously.
Maybe.
He's not thinking so hard about the acting. He's focusing on where the camera is and he's doing his shit like do it in as few takes as possible because he doesn't know how it is. He just feels it. He's vibing with it.
Yeah. But overall, I mean, he did his job. He won Best Director. I have no problem with him winning that. I don't know what the other movies are that got nominated or the directors that got nominated, but there's really nobody that is, as far as acting is concerned, there's nobody really popping out. I mean, I mentioned Brendan Gleeson. He is a big part of this movie.
Oh, yeah. There's a whole lot of people I said, you went, oh, hey,
right.
Oh, hey, many times. Because there's like multiple people in this that you know from Game of Thrones. So like the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. He's Brendan Gleeson's father in this movie. Brian Cox is in this movie.
He's Uncle Argyle.
Uncle Argyle. He's only in the beginning, and then he's just gone the rest of the movie.
I was kind of disappointed. I need more Brian Cox in my life. We should watch Succession.
Eventually. Would you listen to us do a podcast about Succession?
Hey, by the way.
Email us, neverseenitpod@gmail.com. The one that I think is actually doing the most in this movie that I was like, wow, this person is quite good, is Angus McFadden as Robert the Bruce. I thought of everybody in this movie, he was doing a really good job.
Yeah, and I think it helps because there's this other like deep-seated Shakespearean thing happening with him and his leper father.
And there's a political drama, there's political intrigue because he's playing the Scots and his father is playing the English and trying to work both sides to get him the throne.
Yeah, and he is the one who is betraying Wallace, and he actually feels that betrayal, and he has a redemption arc. Honestly, I wish they would have gone more about him. I wish they would have gotten more of his background.
Interestingly, that actor has played Robert the Bruce again in a series or something, specifically about Robert the Bruce.
Okay.
So that does exist that we could go check out.
Okay.
I only happened to hear about it by accident somewhere, but I do know that is a thing that exists because, as I said, to the Scottish people, that's the true hero. And in this movie, you're right. He is betraying William Wallace. He is also betrayed by his own father. He is like bloody in his mouth as he's been beaten by soldiers, and he confronts his father, and he's full of hate and rage. And at the very end of the movie, he's basically struck a deal. All he has to do is kind of pledge fealty to King Edward, the new King Edward, because the other one died.
Right.
And he will be crowned King of Scotland. And they're just about to go and do it. And he turns his horse around and he looks at all the men who fought with William Wallace and he says, "You bled with William Wallace, now bleed with me." I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of moved when I'm watching this. And I think it's because he's so good in this that his voice cracks a little bit. Like I'm showing humility in this moment, and I want you to stand by me, and I'm going to finally, pull up my bootstraps and I'm going to join you in the actual fight instead of like staying out of it, which he's done the whole movie.
Yeah, the humility is really shining through here that, it's kind of cheating. He pulls out the handkerchief from Wallace.
They're manipulating me emotionally, absolutely.
Yeah. And we can talk more later about the fucking melodrama in this entire movie, and it doesn't need to be there. But yeah, I agree with you that I think his character is the most interesting, and the movie is lessened by the fact that he is not a more main character.
But yes, at the end of the movie, I shed, I think, a single tear. That could be hormones or something, but
right.
A single tear for Robert the Bruce. We'll like the long movie that we just watched, where I did point out to you that they split the movie in 2 parts for the tape. We do have to take a break for a quick word from our sponsor.
Recently I've been bored and feeling out of sorts. My normal podcasts just weren't cutting it anymore, so I talked to my doctor, and she recommended patreon.com/neverseenitpod, and now I feel better than ever.
Patreon.com/neverseenitpod is a once-weekly subscription podcast used to create joy. Side effects may include a sense of euphoria, aching muscles from smiling, and a dependence on the host's addictive personalities. Do not take this podcast if you are allergic to fun, have a history of laughing until you pee, or are afraid of a good time.
Talk to your doctor about patreon.com/neverseenitpod today.
So you were saying that this movie is melodramatic. Do you have some specific examples?
Mainly, I was referring to the fact of it's all of these long, slow shots in slow-mo, and him just throwing in all this extra tension building stuff, like you said, and just I don't think it really needed to be there. I know that, yes, there's this big thing about to happen. I know the reason why he's about to do this thing. You don't need to draw it out.
You would rather it have been quick and punchy.
Right.
There also are a couple of romances thrown into the story. So at the beginning, he is a child, and this little girl goes up to him and gives him a flower at the funeral of his father and his brother.
Right.
And then he goes off and he comes back as a grown man and he remembers this girl who is now a grown woman. And he says, I love you. I have always have. Okay, I'm doing that was terrible.
It's too much.
I'm sorry,
No,
that was too much.
no.
But yeah, he's like been fixated on this one person forever.
Why? Why? What the fuck, man? You saw this girl at your father and brother's funeral. The little girl came up to you and gave you a pretty flower that meant nothing. That kid is like 4 or 5 years old. She doesn't know what the fuck she's doing.
Well, apparently what she gives him is a thistle, and it's like the official symbol of Scotland. So there's like this subtext here about like, believe, freedom.
Fuck that.
And of course, that you wouldn't know that if
No, of
you
course
if
not.
you didn't read the behind the scenes stuff.
And these people don't know that.
No, but he comes back.
These children.
He comes back and he sees her at a wedding and they immediately fall in love.
Bullshit.
And they get married.
No, Betsy, no. He said that, oh no, I've loved you for the longest time.
Yes.
I've loved you for years. What? You saw her at 5 minutes at your fucking father's funeral. Who knows if she's ever been around him prior to that?
You're such a cynic, Trent. You don't like love.
I don't like forced love like this. And it didn't really help that, Mel Gibson was, 38 when he made this movie, and he comes back seemingly like he's a younger man. Like, supposedly he's supposed to be about 20 when he comes back.
So I think what your big nitpick is how long we have with them together. If they had if he came back and he had been back for a while and then they got together because they had clearly been courting and then they got married and maybe were together married for a while.
Another Patriot parallel.
Yep.
But in that case, it is his son who was friends with the girl when they were children. And
there's history
there's
there.
a history there. And then he courts her throughout the course of the movie.
Yeah,
so that's more paid off here. That in this movie, nuh-uh.
And that's what I think you're struggling with is it was too quick. They basically see each other once. They go for a horseback ride.
Right,
The next
in the
time
rain.
they see each other, he proposes. Then they get married that night.
And they get immediately married. And
Or the next day.
I understand that these people are quite religious, and so is Mel Gibson. So of course you have to get married before you have the sexy times in the moonlight.
But then she dies like the next day.
Yep.
And this is what sets him off on the rest of his journey. Like that's what triggers it. But then later, because the king won't go anywhere near him and his son sucks, they send the princess to go and negotiate on the behalf of the king.
Yes.
And then there is a second love story here because she is drawn to him and they also have sexy times to the point that she conceives his child.
Sure. Which, again, I don't think is real.
No, because like I said,
No.
she wasn't even there.
Again, it
The
is more...
timeline is all messed up.
Yeah, it is more of the Shakespearean family thing that is kind of forced in here, which I understand. It's kings and princes and all this other shit. I don't really know the history of this king or his son, but was there? I mean, there's absolutely a subtext here that he's a gay boy and has gay boy fun with this other guy who he throws out the fucking window.
Well, do you know why he does that? Little history for you.
No.
Dying by the sword was an honor. So if he killed him by sword, it would have been too good for him. So instead he threw him out the window.
That's maybe the best moment in that movie.
To bring it back to the romantic subtext, this could also be the whole thing about, Mel Gibson in the mid-90s was, quote, the sexiest man alive. Why wouldn't you add these extra elements to the story? Because women loved him at this time.
And here's the deal. I actually did appreciate when, they give the story about the princess. She is the daughter of the French king, right?
Yes.
So the English king marries the French princess to his son, even though the son doesn't want anything to do with the lady. But she's got this other French handmaiden who is following her around, her escort, if you will.
Her lady in waiting.
Yeah. She's telling her all these stories about William Wallace and the romance surrounding him. And not just romantic love. It is his story. It is, he married someone secretly because of this. And the reason why he's fighting is for the love of his woman who is no longer alive. And
Which is something a French woman would be like, ah, l'amour.
right. Did you also get the not so subtle reference to cunnilingus in this movie?
They did.
Yeah.
They did that. Yeah, no, there's kind of a lot of, they don't come right out and say it, but they say enough that
Right.
these French women love to fuck.
Well, they said something to the effect of, "Oh yeah, this English guy doesn't know how to use his tongue."
Yeah, he doesn't know what his tongue is for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, okay, I would have appreciated more of the levity, if you even want to call it that. Like, The Patriot has a lot of very serious notions in it. Like, his entire family is basically killed by, circumstances and everything else. But along with that, there is some levity along with it. There's some comedy. There's some slapstick stuff.
Okay, there is that in this movie, but it pretty much exclusively comes from Stephen, the mad Irishman who can talk to God.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because he comes in and he is just this wacky little man. And like when they go into battle and they're having arrows thrown at them, he looks at William Wallace and says, "I've talked to the Lord and he thinks he can get me out of this, but he tells me you're fucked." Or later on, he keeps saying the whole movie, "Ireland is my island. It's mine. I wouldn't worry about the Irish." When the English call in the Irish to come help them fight.
Yeah, the conscripted Irish who are just paid there as mercenaries.
They come in onto the battlefield and they run at each other and then they all stop and like slap hands. They're like, "Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here."
That was really good. I appreciated that.
But that's mostly where it all comes from. The levity is all surrounding the Irish versus Scottish thing. And I think that's probably a very conscious joke because there is this known like, I don't like those guys. I don't know why, but I'm not over in the UK or anywhere remotely close to Ireland and England and Scotland to have an opinion about this.
The entirety of that whole area is completely foreign to us because, if there's any beef between states, it's not really a thing. Like, the people over there, over the generations, have gone to war over very, very minor things.
Yeah, versus us where we're like, we live in South Dakota, we're the good Dakota, North Dakota can eat it.
Sure.
And they say the same thing about us. But then we even do it with like east side of the river and the west side of the river. The state of South Dakota, right smack down the middle, has a river.
Kind of.
Okay, close enough.
The Missouri River bisects both sides of South Dakota.
And so there's East River and West River.
Yeah, and there's jokes about East River and West River and whatever. It doesn't mean anything. It is just beef to have beef.
Yeah, we're bored. We need to start some shit.
There's nothing going on here. But I think that it would have been more impactful if you actually did grow up in the UK or Europe in general, that you would have been taught about some of these battles and some of these kings and some of this history. Whereas in America, we don't get any of that shit.
It's a double-edged sword, though, because if they know the history, they're going to go, well, this movie is fucking stupid.
True.
This is so inaccurate. I can't even enjoy it. Like,
Man,
the first big battle sequence, Trent, it literally was a battle of a bridge.
Right.
The first battle was about a bridge. And they said, why didn't you put it in there? Well, the bridge... Like they asked Mel Gibson and he said, well, the bridge kind of got in the way of filming. And they said, that was what the English found.
Right.
The bridge was a difficult thing to overpass. And that's why they lost that battle. Well, Trent, obviously I have seen this movie many times. So you have to have some other thoughts that you'd like to talk about before we start wrapping this one up.
Yeah. So I only had a few different things that I wanted to bring up. The king. Okay. I don't know if we want to talk about this or not, but the king implements prima noctis, which is a term that I have heard before in other contexts, but the theory is, okay, if a nobleman wants to take a commoner's wife to bed on her wedding day, he has the right to do so.
The legal right, basically. Yeah.
Right.
He can go in there and say, I'm staking my claim.
But apparently in history, that never happened.
How does this surprise you? That's this whole movie.
Why would you
None
even
of this
bring
happens.
it in here? You could have had so many other things for people to be pissed off about. But is it just the overhanging threat that it might happen? Because it was a law on the books. It was just never implemented.
I think it's just to further demonstrate what a shit this king is. It's like, what are the worst things that I can, as a king, do to the Scots to make them hate their lives and fear me? And that is one of them.
Yeah, and the idea that he's going to use his power and influence and money to bribe the lords of Scotland by giving them more land, but also offering to some of the lower level people, hey, you can get a little parcel of land too, but you need to pay me an annual tax for the privilege of owning this thing. There's property tax for you. I did not. One thing I absolutely did not like, they handled the time jump very poorly, because you saw the William Wallace child going off with his uncle. Then there's some narration happening. You don't know who the narrator is or why it's important. Then they actually cut over to the actual guy, the narrator, who again?
Robert the Bruce.
Robert the Bruce. So he's the one doing all this stuff. Honestly, it kind of reminded me of the movie 300, where one of the guys who were in the 300 who got injured, he was sent back. He was the one telling the story to everybody else. So there's another one for you. But when the narration is happening here, we just cut over to old Mel Gibson.
I love that you're referring to him as old Mel Gibson. He is younger in this movie than we currently are.
I know. But he's coming back, and obviously I know that he is playing William Wallace, so he's coming back to his burnt down house.
It's just dilapidated. It's not even burnt down. It just collapsed.
Fine.
It's made of rock and sticks.
Sure. Anyway, he comes back to his house, and if you didn't already know that Mel Gibson was the main star here, you might have been confused about who that was. From a storytelling perspective, if you weren't influenced by the marketing of this movie, you wouldn't know who the fuck that is.
I think it's more, again, just looking at the timeline, because he's what, 9, 10 at the beginning of the movie?
Yeah,
how old did you say that kid is?
He comes back when he's about 20, so...
Except he doesn't, because at the end of the movie, they say, in the year of our Lord, 1314, they state their claim, meaning... presumably he died around 1314, which is a 34-year gap from the beginning of the movie, which means he's actually playing older than he really is when he's supposed to have died at 35.
Yeah, he died around 35. So yeah, the timeline here is all fucked up.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
I don't like that.
So just, you really have to let some things go to really enjoy this. When you're getting analytical, you're going to fall into these traps.
Yeah. Talking about something that I really did like, when William Wallace goes into the tent with the princess to kind of negotiate this thing, he's saying, he's making comparisons to, okay, well, I'll be your Judas. If I accept your bribe, then I'm becoming Judas here. And this is how other people are sold into slavery, by paying off one guy and allowing his followers to become subjects.
Yeah, she says something about wars are finished this way, or men are made this way, and he responds, slaves are made this way too.
Mm-hmm. I do appreciate that they do allow him to go after the people who betray him, like all of those cavalrymen who fuck off during one of the battles where he knows that he's fucked. He survives that battle and he goes after these guys. And one time he just dumps one of the bodies on the table while they're eating.
Drags him to the roof, cuts his throat, and drops him.
Fuck.
Another time he rides his horse into the castle and then dives out a window after he smashes this guy's head in.
Speaking of stuff that doesn't need to be there, how long was he falling out of that window?
It's to demonstrate how high it is.
Fuck.
And I pointed out to you, some horses like to dive. That horse didn't need to die. That horse just sort of fell in the water.
Yes. Okay, and last thing I want to talk about. Why does he see dead people in his dreams?
He does see a lot of dead people.
Betsy, we covered The Sixth Sense for our 100th movie. Mm-hmm. What is it about this milestone here that we're seeing dead people?
I don't know, but for our 200th movie, we did Scarface. So I guess for 400, we need to pick something where someone's really coked out of their mind.
I'm game.
So if you have suggestions, neverseenapod@gmail.com. No, I don't know what that is. I think, again, it's the very literal interpretation of him like being inspired by these events and really formative things in his childhood.
Yeah, he is haunted by what he
He's haunted,
what he
yeah.
sees. Him being this like 10-year-old kid seeing a fucking room filled with hanged corpses,
including children.
that would fuck me up.
Yeah. And then his dad and his brother die, and then
Yeah.
he sees their dead bodies.
Yeah, it's all of these formative things that are happening to him as a child.
And then what really pushes him over the edge
The
is
wife,
his
yeah.
wife gets killed. She doesn't die. She is murdered. You know, they slice her throat. And he retaliates by slicing the other guy's throat. But the difference is when it's her, we're looking at her face and we just see the life like drain out of her. And when it's the other guy, his throat gets slit and you see it. And, you know, again, 11 years old, I'm watching this movie. So this was a formative movie for me. Long and short.
I'm sure. Do you see dead people in your dreams, Betsy?
Thank
do you see the
God.
dead people from this
No.
movie in your dreams?
No, I do not. Because I've grown up enough to know that this is a movie. It's not real.
Definitely nothing in this movie is real. But just to kind of wrap things up for us, Braveheart is a good movie. I did enjoy this. I have to put it out of my mind. All of these other things that I've seen that were inspired by this movie clearly isn't a movie I'm ever going to watch again. Probably. And I don't say that a lot. Like, I've seen The Patriot plenty of times. I've seen the entirety of Game of Thrones twice now, all the way through at least twice now.
And then some.
And then some. You know, we've seen the Lord of the Rings trilogy plenty of times. I do like these big epic battles. I do like these big epic movies. But, you know, I'm pushing 40 now. I have a life. I have a podcast. And I don't have a lot of time to rewatch long-ass movies. I still haven't watched Oppenheimer again. And I cannot believe I haven't done it yet.
It's the simple problem of time. With
Yeah.
movies like this, you said you've not seen me watch this movie because I don't think I have, because I don't just wake up and think, you know what I want to watch today, Braveheart. This is not that kind of a movie for me.
Yeah, I remember going back to watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy like once every 6 months, even the extended editions. What the?
Yeah, and we're kind of due to rewatch that again. Like we have cycles where we'll watch all three of the movies every so many years. We just do all three of them in a row, and then we're good for a while. Braveheart doesn't pop into my head that way. Braveheart exists. I never have owned a copy of this for as many times as I've seen this movie. It's not one I felt the need to have on my shelf.
Yeah, and I got this movie in a dual pack with Gladiator.
Yeah.
It is the 4K version of Gladiator and Braveheart in one package, and we've never put the Braveheart disc in up until today.
I will say this was the best it's ever looked because
this
we
looked
watched
really
it.
good.
We watched it on the big screen in 4K, and every other time I watched it before this was on a little tube TV or something.
VHS, tube TV, or a DVD, maybe.
Pretty much. But I think that is gonna do it then for Braveheart, movie 300. We made it, Trent.
300 in the books. Holy cow, Betsy.
Holy cow.
Just over 3 years we've been doing this now.
Who knew? We'd still be here, Trent.
Yeah. I think we eventually were going to do this, but I don't know if I ever thought we were going to do hundreds and hundreds of movies and have so many of you lovely listeners out there.
So yes, thank you for listening to this episode. As always, we would love to hear your thoughts. Do you love Braveheart? Is it overblown? Is it a big stupid movie that you cannot stand? Send us your thoughts, neverseenapod@gmail.com. You could also message us on any of our social media platforms. We've got Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, any of those places. And we did get a message from one of our listeners, Blake, about another epic movie that we covered recently, Dune 2.
Dune 2?
Speaking of groundskeeper Willie, Dune 2.
Dune 2. It's coming full circle.
Coming full circle. I found a way to make it a relevant reference. All right. So Blake sent us a message on Instagram about Dune 2, and he begins, I thought Dune 2 was remarkable in almost every way and immensely and immediately better than the first one. And I loved the first movie.
Sure.
But it felt like Villeneuve was just stretching for this one. I'm trying to think of another perfect storm of things and people in movies happening at once that Dune 2 is able to capture. Mainly, Villeneuve rising from the ranks of Hollywood movie maker to big budget, big stage, Hollywood grandiose filmmaking, all in caps, all while bringing along young movie stars like Chalamet, Zendaya, Pugh, and Butler into absolute movie superstardom.
Yeah, I don't really think about that too much because I never surmise, okay, these are going to be the new stars of
the stars of tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't really care that much. Like, if I like the people, I'm going to see the movies that they're in, but I never really think about, oh, Zendaya, she's going to be like the new Meryl Streep. I don't fucking care about that. I just want to watch the movies.
Right. And if you look at a movie like Braveheart, Mel Gibson was an established star. There's nobody else in this movie that this is a movie about.
Well,
like,
that's part of the studio.
This didn't launch any careers. Let's just put it that way.
No, and think about the movie The Patriot. I mean, fucking Heath Ledger is all over that movie as well, and he was very much an up-and-comer. So that was something. He allowed the screen to be shared by another big name actor.
We're going to have to do an entire episode somewhere on some platform about The Patriot just so you can talk about it at length.
Maybe.
Because this podcast has turned so much about that movie.
I don't care. Continue.
Continuing with Blake's message. This movie is quite unprecedented, and to see it succeed so effortlessly is something to behold.
I don't know if it was effortlessly.
I mean, it feels like he just kind of threw it out there. Yes, it's a lot of work, but that's what the mark of a true expert is. They make it look easy.
Yeah, I'm reminded of our conversation in that episode about they had to do so much research and so much work to try to capture what the book was trying to represent and do it justice and satisfy the people who are the diehards. And for my understanding, the diehards were satisfied by both of these movies.
But you're also trying to make a movie for the general populace.
Absolutely.
Because you cannot make Dune truly just for the fans of the books, because those movies would not be successful.
You're right.
He continues, I never understood the appeal of Zendaya and Chalamet, but here, Villeneuve unleashes their star power onto the big screen that is a capital A announcement of their personas. I've bemoaned for years that the idea of movie stars and film superstars is a thing of the past and that the idea of them is dying out. And I'm starting to think that I was wrong and that we were just in a lull for a bit, because I think we have our stars for the next 20 to 30 years.
Remains to be seen. I'm not that sold on Chalamet. I think he's just kind of I think he's been one of these guys who have been molded out of clay and just put out there as this
young, beautiful star,
this young twink. And, all of these other, the females are also getting, top billing here as well.
I don't know. We'll see in a few years, but these people really stepped up from the first movie to the second movie, what they are all doing. And time will tell, Trent.
If there's anybody in that cast that I'm sold on, it is Florence Pugh. I think she can do anything. I want her to do more comedy. I want all serious actors to do more comedy, to be honest.
Everyone needs to lighten up.
But I think Florence Pugh has a really, really good future.
I think they all probably do, but we have to wait and see. It's going to be, I don't know how many years until we get Dune Messiah. Right. And everybody else is, I don't even know, what's Austin Butler doing next? I think he's got that movie where he's in a motorcycle gang or something.
Well, he's got that
he's got a TV show.
He's got that Apple TV show.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Blake. We appreciate you reaching out to us.
Yeah, thanks, Blake.
So again, you can be like Blake. Send us a message on any of our social media platforms or email us neverseenitpod@gmail.com. If you have not had enough from this episode of hearing us speak, did you also know we have a Patreon? That's right. We have 4 additional shows because we cannot help ourselves.
If the 300 other episodes that we have put out there and have been out there forever for free, if that's not enough, go to Patreon. You can hear us talk about all sorts of other kinds of movies. Those shows over there are very themed. So if you're into romance movies, if you're into what we really, really like, we haven't done one on the Patreon yet, but we might eventually.
We might eventually. The way you went on about it today, it kind of seems like we have to put it on the list at least.
Maybe.
Or if you just want Trent to be constantly tormented without being in control of his future.
Right.
We literally have a show where we don't know what movie we're going to watch. And all of those shows, $5 a month gets you all of that, plus who the hell knows what else. We're getting as creative as we want to and can be in the confines of Patreon.
The real creativity is over on Patreon. We're able to go a little bit farther than what we normally can, and we really tried to throw in something extra in every single episode over there. Not because we can't do it over here, but these episodes are a lot longer. Some of these movies are a lot fucking longer, and yeah. Anyway, go to Patreon.
Patreon.com/neverseenitpod gets you all that content. But over here on Never Seen It, we've got a lot more May ahead of us.
It's Big Movie May.
Big Movie May. And next week is yet another big movie.
And this movie, neither of us have seen.
Neither of us has seen. It's on the books as one of the greats, something that's been around that one of us at least should have seen by now. We're going to get all the way into it next week, but we are going to be watching The French Connection.
Big old movie there.
Holy hell, it's finally happening. But until that time, we thank you as always for listening to Never Seen It. My name is Betsy.
And my name is Trent.
And we'll see you next week.